Black and Powerful is brought to you by the Black McDonald's Operators Association.
She's invested in family, community, and Chicago. A product of the South and West Sides, proudly elected as the city treasurer. Now she's fighting to make sure residents, especially young Chicagoans, know their worth and value. Our guest, Melissa Conyears-Ervin, Black and Powerful. Madam Treasurer, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Black and Powerful. We have been wanting to talk to you for a while because you are homegrown, you are from Chicago, from the South Side, born on the South Side, and then raised on the West Side. And we know so many people want to know how you got where you are today. You come from a single parent home. You have been through so many different obstacles and you have been able to just fight them all off, and now you're here. And we want to know more about you. Again, you are truly a Chicago treasure. So first of all, tell us about your upbringing, because so many people, especially moms, they want to know how they can raise their children, their daughters, to possibly be just like you one day.
You know, Samantha, as I'm looking across the table, I feel like I can ask you the same question. Certainly everyone loves Samantha Chapman, all the great work that you do, a beautiful Black woman born and raised in Chicago as well, so we're so proud of you. But I'll say, as you mentioned, I am born and raised. I tell people I am a true Chicagoan. My mother was a widow when her girls were a very young age. My mother had 3 girls, and she was a union worker. And I always tell people that because I'm so proud of what I saw at a very young age, my mother fighting for employee rights, equal pay. And I saw that when I was like yay high. And I don't think I understood it then as I do now, the importance of child care assistance, things that I saw along the way because my mother was a single mother at the time. And a lot of times because she was a union steward, she had to take her 3 girls with her because of child care. She had to take her 3 girls with her to union meetings at the union hall and everything like that. So I saw my mother campaign, help candidates get in office, all of that at a very young age. Didn't really understand it all then as I do now in the importance of it. But she instilled that in me at a very young age. She knew then that she had to fight for the future of her 3 girls. So I am a product of Chicago Public School. I am proud of that. Elementary, high school. First in my family to attend college. I was able to obtain my Bachelor of Science in Finance. Matter of fact, I knew I loved numbers. It was between accounting and finance. I said, I think I'll go with finance. And I was very excited when I graduated with my Bachelor of Science, and I knew that I was coming back home to Chicago. Chicago is in me, Chicago is me. I absolutely love this city, adore the residents here. So I came back home, and I guess the rest is history.
That notion of coming back really intrigues me because a lot of people don't come back.
That is correct.
You know, there's this notion that once you make it, maybe you should get out of Chicago or get out of what some people call the hood or your community where you grew up. You stayed.
Yes.
And a lot of people have asked me, why did she stay? Why would anyone stay? Why would you want to stay? Why was it important for you to come back and stay?
Because of what was invested in me. It really does take a village to raise and train up a child. And my mother, being a single mother, obviously she could not do it on her own. When I think about the teachers of Chicago Public School and what they instilled in me, what they invested in me, that made a difference for who I am today. I think about the need of the youth of today. And I knew that just as what was invested in me, there was no way that I can walk away. And Samantha, you'll hear me talk about the youth all the time because, especially now, being the mother of a young daughter, my daughter is 5 years old. I truly understand that our children are our future. And so I say all the time, I'm not only fighting for my little girl, I'm fighting for all of our little girls and boys so that they'll have a future.
Absolutely. Let's talk about your upbringing. You mentioned your mother. What did she mean to you? Because you talk about her a lot.
She meant everything to me. And I say meant in past tense because I recently lost her in just the past few months. She had been sick for a very long time, but it's something that you can never prepare yourself for, although you think you can. But she definitely meant the world to me. I saw the strength of a woman in my mother. And it's so interesting because my mother raising us as a single woman, and I'm married, and sometimes I know that may be a challenge for my husband because the only thing I know is an independent woman. The only thing that I know is a woman that knows how to take care of things no matter what, no matter who's involved. And so if one thing that I've learned in life, if no one else does it, believe me, I know how to get up and do what needs to be done. And so I really appreciate that. And I'll tell you, Samantha, I don't know how, as a working mother, that I could be the city treasurer if I was not trained from my mother as I was. That independence, that tenacity, I feel that I'm able to overcome so much. And as you mentioned in the introduction, it has not been easy, but I have learned. And I think that sometimes I think it's strange that in my toughest times, I can be the most calm. And it's something that I'll never understand, but I did see it in my mother. She had a very tough time raising 3 girls. When you talk about live check to check, and that's why I tell people all the time, and they laugh, I'm like, I'm not just a city treasurer in pseudo, okay? Understand that I'm really the city treasurer, as in I know the value of $1, but I'm going to save $1. I'm going to do what I can to save money in my personal life as I would do to save and make money for taxpayers. That's what I do.
Absolutely. Want to get into your education,
Yes.
because you were the first person in your family, as you mentioned, to graduate from college. You didn't really see too many examples of that.
Right.
What inspired you to really push through school and seek higher education?
My mother always instilled in me to never be limited by my zip code. Born in Inglewood, raised on the west side. And she told me, you can be the best that you can be. You can be all that you want to be, and to not be intimidated by anyone. Because sometimes I know for young people that can be intimidating. When I went to college and pursued my Bachelor of Science in Finance, I'll tell you, in the College of Business, there were not many people that looked like me. That was intimidating, but I pushed my way. And my mother would always encourage me through college, you can do it, you can do it. Well, I not only stopped there, but after college, when I started in banking, actually, it's interesting because I work with so many banking institutions now as the treasurer, but I started in banking, and then I left there and went on to further my career in corporate America. And that's something a lot of people may not know, that I actually spent over a decade in corporate America before getting into public service. And while working full-time in corporate America, I went back to pursue my MBA in finance at Roosevelt University right here in Chicago. And so what I am so proud of, I think I'm more proud of this than my own education, that my mother was so encouraged. She had a GED while raising her 3 girls, and she was so encouraged by me pursuing my MBA that she went on to achieve and obtain her Bachelor of Science as well.
That's incredible. Talk about an experience where you felt like you had to literally put your emotions and feelings to the side because you weren't expected to hurt or feel pain or be vulnerable in your corporate space. You just have to get it done. A lot of Black women feel that way.
Yes. I would definitely say, really, I would say my experience as state representative, and I know I didn't even jump into that yet. We just talked, so just have a great conversation. But when I left corporate America, my first role in government was as state representative. And that was an eye-opener for me because I had an opportunity to really see what laws are being made. I always tell people, if you want to know why we live the way we live as far as the laws that exist in the land, many of that is done at the legislature. So I was state representative for the area that I was in, and it was at a very challenging time where it was under a Republican governor with the Republican administration. And I remember that when I walked into office, I had all these ideas because, again, coming from the south and west side of Chicago, knew what working families needed. I was ready to hit the ground running. Well, it wasn't quite like that. To my surprise, with the administration. And there was two opportunities of legislation that I was most proud of at that time. One, of course, being a Chicago public school graduate, to be able to bring an additional $221 million. I know the number by exact because it meant so much to me. $221 million to Chicago public schools. But the second piece of legislation that was very emotional for me and was very difficult was child care assistance, because personally I knew how important it is. To me, a parent should not have to choose between going to work and quality child care. And so I knew that that was something that was important. Well, before I took office, the Republican governor at the time had cut child care assistance where approximately 15,000 families lost child care. And when I wanted to pursue the legislation, I was told there's no need to pursue it. It'll never pass, number one. And number two, the governor definitely would never sign it. And when I started to have these conversations, when you hear people say things, let's say the opposition, and you hear people say things that are so insensitive, and you know the challenges that you've been through in life, the challenges that working families in Chicago, in the communities that you've seen, it can be very disheartening sometimes, very hurtful, because it's personal for you. But yet when you're having those conversations, you know that if there was any chance of me winning this person over, I cannot show any emotions, even when they have offended me. Even when I believe there is an underlying racist comment, I cannot allow those emotions to flare.
Why? Tell us why.
That's so crazy, but it's because I know that people that do not necessarily understand me or my culture, or people that look like me, there is a stereotype that we get very emotional, and there's a stereotype that our emotions may get in the way. And I did not want that perception of me. But that's unfair, because if it's something personal to me, I should have the opportunity to express my emotions. But understanding that we were raised that we cannot do that. And so that was very difficult. We did make it through. I'll tell you, Samantha, I felt stronger than ever because of all the things that I experienced and the challenges. But because of the tenacity that was instilled in me and where I come from and my background, not only were we able to restore child care assistance for those 15,000 families, and I'm so proud to say with bipartisan support, but that same Republican governor that cut the child care assistance signed it into law. Wow. So I always tell people, you never know what the outcome may be. Just keep fighting. Just keep fighting. And guess what? Sometimes it may go in your favor.
When did you decide that you wanted to pursue the position of city treasurer for the city of Chicago?
But when the opportunity came available, I had a background in finance, love working for people, love my people, the government, the residents of the city. I said, this is a no-brainer. This is the role for me.
And you're a numbers woman.
I'm a numbers girl. And so this is my story to young people. You know where you've been, but you don't know where you're going. Samantha, if someone would have told me way back when I was pursuing my Bachelor of Science in Finance that I would be the city treasurer of Chicago, I would have said, you're right. Never in a million years that I know back then that I was being prepared for even now. And so that's encouragement to anyone that is listening. I tell parents, encourage your young people, because you never know what life is taking you. And I always say too, be careful what you do in life, because that reputation will follow you, because you never know where you might be in public office.
I have a feeling there are a lot of mothers that are watching right now, much like your mother, much like you, who want the best for their children. But the prospect of their kids going to college may seem out of reach. We've got to make it. We're just trying to make it through. We can't think about college right now. I want the best for my kids. However, I've got to tend to their immediate needs. Thinking that far down the road might seem just way beyond their scope. What do you tell those mothers who feel like they're just trying to make it through and they can't see that far down?
I first want to tell them they're not alone. Sometimes I think that when we're going through things in life, we think that it's just us. It's not. I think about all of the programs that we do within the city treasurer's office. Just the other day, we had a program to talk about the financial assistance available for students that want to pursue college. These are resources that certainly my mother would not have been able to advise me of, but it would have taken outside entities to be able to advise me on what the next steps were. I'll also say this, as city treasurer, and I do want to let parents really let this digest what I'm saying. As city treasurer, my primary role is to protect taxpayers' dollars and invest it. As a matter of fact, I make money for taxpayers. Everyone doesn't even know that. I make hundreds of $millions in investments for taxpayers with their money. I'm kind of like their personal banker, is what I call it. Well, in doing that, a lot of treasurers could just stop there and say, that's my primary function. My job is to make money for you, protect your money, we make certain we don't lose it. But I like to go a step further, and I want parents to hear this. I go a step further, and I am specific to focus on two areas: equity and financial empowerment. And here's where the young people come in. With equity, I believe that our young people have a place in the financial services industry. Matter of fact, there's $69 trillion in assets under management in the financial services industry. Minorities own 1.3%. 1.3% of 69 trillion. Every time I say that, it still makes my stomach turn. When I think about that, I feel like I have so much more to do. I have to leverage taxpayers' dollars to make it work for them. So it's very important to me to bring awareness to young people with the financial service industry. You started the segment as well speaking about what young people can see. When they look at us, they can see young Black women born and raised in Chicago. Look at what they're doing today. And we want them to know that this is something that they can achieve. There's a statement that a child cannot be what a child cannot see. We want them to see that they can be this.
And when I think about growing up, you know, career day and, you know, just mentors that came through schools. I'm also a product of CPS. Didn't see a lot of women in the financial services industry. Saw a lot of men, but not a lot of women. So to your point, how can I aspire to be if I did not see that?
When I tell students that I manage alone, outside of the 69 trillion in the industry, I manage $8.5 billion. Their eyes, billion? With the B? Both of us said that.
I know how these kids are, because that would have been me. With a B?
That is so funny. And I say, yes, with a B. That is exactly.
Girl, we're from Chicago. I already know where you're going with it. I know how these Chicago kids think. We were one of them.
And so that's something that I tell them because they don't know this. And when I tell them what you see in the streets as looks like money being exchanged, like it could be big money, I say, you haven't seen anything. See the financial service industry and the money that is being transferred, millions of dollars in transactions at a time. That can be you. Why can't it be?
Do more people in the private sector, more Black people in the private sector or in the financial services industry, do they need to mentor some of these kids? It seems like we got to have them come out of hiding and expose these kids to this industry.
You know, I spoke about being treasurer. I didn't even mention, because this stuff is so second nature to me now, what I do every day. I actually, on a daily basis, wear two other hats, just as being treasurer. I'm also the only elected official that sits on all four of the city's pension funds, which is a tremendous amount of time dedication, because we want to make certain with the pension crisis and everything that's going on that we're still making money on our returns, etc. But then also, as treasurer, I'm the chairman of the Chicago Community Catalyst Fund, which is a social impact fund For me, it's about equity, it's about impact, leveraging taxpayers' dollars to make it work for them. Well, within the pension funds, I see millions of dollars being transacted always on a daily basis. We have asset managers that come before us, and they are looking to do business with us. And I may ask the question because there may be people that come before us and none of them look like me. And so I ask the question, as I also ask for the employee diversity chart, want to know how your diversity looks within your organization. Because Chicago is made up of a third Black, third Hispanic, third white. We're diverse, the most diverse. So I want to know how your organization respects the diversity of Chicago. Sometimes we have organizations that come before us, and when I ask them about that, they'll say, you know what? Maybe another state they come from, because they'll travel in for the business. And they'll say, it is very difficult to find diverse candidates. Look how you breathe, right? Because you and I both know there are so many others like us, so many others that don't even know about the opportunities, that if they knew about them, they would definitely take advantage of them. So guess what I'm doing, Samantha? In the next couple of months, you're going to be hearing about a financial service career day, first ever from the city treasurer's office. And we are going to do that because we are going to bring those talented candidates to them so that they will no longer have the excuse of, we cannot find the diverse talent. I'm going to bring the diverse talent to them.
I love it. Why is it so important for you to, be so connected with the youth and the community? This is something you're very passionate about.
Yes.
I hear you talking about the youth a lot.
Yes.
And you've got a lot on your plate, and you've got your own kids and your own family. So we would understand that you are very much invested in what you've got going on, but you're so connected to the youth and the betterment of our children in Chicago. Why is that?
We talk a lot about crime in Chicago. We talk a lot about deprivation in Chicago. I truly believe that if we are going to change the future, we have to start with our young people now. I think about 5-year-old daughter. In 20 years, I certainly do not want her and her peers to be fighting on what we're fighting for today. And so in order for me to change 1.3% ownership of $69 trillion, I have to start now with the young people, making them aware what is out there. And I believe, Samantha, deep down in my heart, that if the young people knew of these opportunities, I believe that that would help all of us with crime, with everything that is going on, with the lack of economic development in communities. I believe all of this will help. And then they will be like us, go to college and say, I want to come back to the community that invested so much in me. Samantha, I'm looking for years down the line where Chicago is going to be turned around, and I want my legacy to say that I had something to do with that. That is so important to me because I understand.
You talked about your spouse. What is it like being so successful, so accomplished, and coming home and then having to be a wife and dedicate your time to your family? How do you do it all?
That's funny. I think of all the questions, that's the funniest. Because in my home, of course, my daughter is like, I'm 5 years old. I know you're the city treasurer. That means something, but can you make me some macaroni and chicken nuggets, right? And so I know you're on this Zoom call at 7 in the evening, but hey, Mom, can you watch a movie with me? Things of that sort. So it's very difficult. And then my husband has a very demanding job, of course. And so it's very difficult how we're trying to balance it all. But if it wasn't for me seeing an independent woman and all those around me, and just the challenges of what I have seen, that drives me so much. But it's not easy. But I'll also say this, I definitely don't want to neglect the opportunity to say, this is why I think it's so important for us to have more women in office. Definitely more mothers in office, because it's going to take us, when I think about the roles that we have in government, and I think about what's before us, I talk about the youth all the time, but what's before us, the challenges of working families, I certainly think that it's going to take more mothers to get in office, to be able to change the dynamics. And so I have to stay in it, because I'm so much encouraging other mothers to get involved because we need them. Is it easy? No. But I believe that if more of us get in office, we'll change the way things are to make it easier, more conducive to the working mother.
So, Madam Treasurer, I want to ask you, what does it mean to you to be Black and powerful?
That's a very interesting question. When I think about where I live in the heart of the West Side, and I told you I walk outside of my door and I see the needs of the community, that's what motivates me. When I think about the young people, young boys and girls and their future, that's what motivates me. I have to admit, I don't really focus on that, being Black and powerful, because I focus so much on the needs of the community. That's what drives me. A lot of people ask me, how can you be so humble? And I'll say, it's actually not so difficult, because when I put myself in the shoes of others, and when I make certain that every day I don't forget how I was raised, where I come from, that's what matters. But I will also say, being a Black woman, I know that within the role of politics, that I should be here. Black women should be here. When I think of every other space, every other field that we can be in, we should be there too. And so a seat at the table, I encourage and I say to Black women, that is where we should be and that is where we deserve to be.
Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you from one Chicago into another. This is great. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Samantha.